Hey guys, it's Casey today. We're going to talk about the Haitian Revolution. First, about the classes and what caused Haitian Revolution, and the classes have a lot to do with that, so we're going to just establish the classes first. We have the Grand Blancs, who are the rich whites. They were plantation owners, they owned slaves. We have the Couleur de Libres, who are property-owning blacks. We have the Petit Blancs, who are the poor whites. And we have the slaves, who own 90% who are 90% of the population. Each problem a class had with society, in their society. We have the Grand Blancs, who didn't like that they didn't get a lot of say in the government. We have the Couleur de Libres, who didn't like that they didn't have the same legal rights as whites. We have the Petit Blancs, who resented and didn't like that there was rich blacks that were, had more money than them. And we have the slaves, who of course did not like being slaves. In 1791, there was the National Assembly, which gave full citizenship to property-owning males. This caused a lot of problems because the Petit Blancs didn't like that blacks now had the same legal rights as them. And because of this, the Couleur de Libres and the Petit Blancs fought. The Petit Blancs took over Port-au-Prince, but during this time, in August of 1791, there was a slave revolt because the slaves wanted freedom, and they were being worked 17 hours a day, really until death. And they were tired of just being overworked, and they killed their masters. They killed their masters. They burned down plantations and just destroyed properties. The French, who were looking to end the slave revolts, granted the rights to men of color. During this time, the British and the Spanish were invading while the slave revolt was happening, and because of this, the French couldn't fight the slaves, the Spanish, and the English, so they freed the slaves. A guy named Louverture, who at the time was all about the freedom of the slaves, before they were freed, he was a general for the Spanish. He was a freedom for the Spanish, but once the slaves got freed, he switched to the French side and helped them turn the war, and they won. After this, after everything is over, Napoleon in 1802 takes over France, and he sends his brother-in-law Leclerc to Haiti to help, because he wants to restart the French Empire in North America, and Haiti's great for to help finance that because they have all the sugar and the coffee. When he went over there, he arrested Louverture, which the slaves didn't mind that much because Louverture still wanted the slaves to do work. It's just they were not slaves anymore. He still wanted to do slave labor though, but for pay. So Leclerc had Louverture arrested, and he later died in prison. But Leclerc then tried to take the guns away from the freed slaves, and that started a war. There was more slaves than there were French soldiers, and the French soldiers had to deal with yellow fever, so the slaves won that battle pretty easily. It wasn't that close, really. And then after that, both, the similarities between the French and the Haitian Revolution was they both started with unrepresented people who wanted equal rights. Both happened in stages. Haiti was the slave revolt, and then the slaves were freed, and the former slaves that had been fighting, and then Napoleon, and then battling for their independence in 1804. The French had Louis XVI ousted, and then Robespierre and the Reign of Terror, but then it was Napoleon, the king, and then Louis XVIII. And then we have was the Haitian Revolution a success or a failure? I'd say it was a success because, for one, the slaves were freed and they got what they wanted. So, and that really doesn't happen in revolutions like this. So, for the slaves to be freed is really big. Also, they gained their independence, which was another part of the revolution, and Haiti gained their independence from France. So, both of their big chunks of what they were trying to do were successful. How does it relate to modern day? In modern day, how does it relate to the Haitian Revolution? It relates because, a lot, the rich whites in the Haitian Revolution had a lot. I mean, in the Haitian had a lot of power, and they, had a lot of say. And then, the people who like the minorities, the overwhelming 90%, which is slaves, didn't have a lot of say. And it's kind of like that, and today, the 2% of America that's really rich has a lot of say in the government, just like compared to the poor people. So at some point you could see where people in this day who are poverty might roll because the rich are just have a lot of control over the government. Thank you for the video.